Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to episode. I didn't even update the description. Well, hold on. It's 377. All right, here we go. Description updated, no issues at all. I'm very prepared. And I'm also like 20 minutes late, but that's whatever. For a good reason. There isn't a good reason, but we do have some fundamentals that came out today. Finally, something happened. Surprise, the Supreme Court tariff ruling happened today on whether or not Trump's tariffs were illegal. Spoiler alert, yep, they were illegal, but Trump immediately found a loophole and, well, if you're wondering why the price hasn't moved at all still, it's because of that loophole and things are going to continue as normal, so it's like a big nothing burger has technically happened, right? No big changes, and that is fine. I'm okay with it. We're going to be talking extensively about the Supreme Court tariffs ruling in tonight's stream, and a little bit about Iran, a little bit about Discord hacking. Lovely. Discord is going to get all our identities, and then they're just going to get hacked. It's happened in the past. It's literally happening right now. This is just marvelous. So, we will be getting into all of that tonight. Bit of a relief for some of the altcoins because of this tariff decision that we spontaneously got. Oh, we also got economic data today. GDP and PCE data, which no one really cared about. The Supreme Court tariff ruling stole the show today. So, I mean, the other data was not favorable for markets either way. Things kind of just remained the same from there. We were actually starting off with a bit of a drop today. And then the Supreme Court tariff ruling came in to save the day, kind of. But then Trump came to counter-save the day, kind of. Yeah, we'll be discussing that tonight. So, Bitcoin's price, still 67,974. Not too bad. Resistance at 71K. Fair enough. No big changes. Need I say more? Really, like, this has been so boring. Like, from here to here, max movement is like 10% over the course of how many days is this? 15 days it's going to be now of us not even being able to, stay within a range of 10%, right? Not a lot of movement. That's boring, but whatever. That's Bitcoin for you. Altcoins are no different. Ethereum is arguably worse, right? Same deal, but okay. Super trend invalidation 2105. Current price is 1967. 2000 is your immediate resistance on Ethereum. We're like right in the middle with the RSIs for every asset right now. It's anyone's game at this point. So really it's tough right now. The volatility is so low. It's like this market does not even exist anymore. None of these markets. Jeff Star, hello. Hopefully we get that. Yeah. So, 0% movement with Ethereum. I literally don't know what else to discuss about it. But, I mean, hey, yes, the DCAing opportunity, that is also valuable as well. I mean, if you do zoom out with these, like, big charts, weekly charts, you'll notice that maybe this is in the process of an accumulation phase. Because, we've been at the top for a while. We have now sold off. Maybe we reaccumulate down here for a moment before eventually taking off once again, right? Maybe. That is when a lot of people are really seeing in the weekly charts. You could say the same thing for Bitcoin, kind of. If this is indeed the bottom. I don't know, some people are pointing at like other charts like this where we just keep on dropping for a while longer. I don't know how low we would have to go for that. Hopefully not much lower, but yeah. Really, I think it's probably better to just go to the weekly charts from here. What is this? What have I done? What is this abomination? This is this downtrend line. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's still in effect. Seems like the uptrend is still alive for Solana. Barely, though. I mean, we did cover this. This was technically supposed to flip it over by now, but whatever. We're still technically in an uptrend for Solana. Sure, hooray, congratulations. I don't think it's that feasible. It's going to be broken pretty soon, and it's also due to the fact that Bitcoin never broke the 71, 72,000. So a lot of altcoins that flip their trends over, like I said yesterday, it seems like they're going to go back to being in a downtrend very soon. Solana's price was 84, no big change. Hyperliquid back above 30, let's go, finally. Still maintaining the uptrend, that's the good stuff with it, but I do expect it to inevitably, break. For that, we would expect Hyperliquid below 27.44, given the overall market weakness, and Bitcoin not being able to flip its trend over. I guess we'll have to wait and see how next week goes, and maybe next week is the big change, because as time goes on, this downtrend line kind of is heading lower. If we just, stabilize our price at 67,000 or whatever, I don't know, like, will this eventually, like, meet up? Maybe in the next week or two? However long it may take. How long are these lines usually? Like this? Yeah, I'd say within, it could be within next week. I don't know. If we get some good volatility toward the upside, there would be no more downtrend on Bitcoin, right? No, never mind. There will still be a downtrend on Bitcoin. We still have this one to worry about. So whatever relief rally dead cat bounce that we may get, I still feel like we could hit 80,000, test that, and see how it goes. But ultimately, we are overshadowed by this downtrend line, and ultimately, we are indeed in a bear market, which bear market right now invalidates at 95,000, which is possible for Bitcoin. I mean, literally, we were at 95,000 a couple weeks ago, 98,000. We were so close to 100,000. Let's not forget that. It's possible. It's absolutely possible. Fed will be cutting rates. We'll be getting a lot of liquidity in markets, although we already do have a lot of liquidity, but it's just not coming into the crypto markets. But Clarity Act is also supposed to happen. Supreme Court tariff, that's finally behind us. Hopefully we go to war with Iran on Sunday to get that behind us as well. Not because I really don't care what goes on over there, but it's just annoying for, oh, war with Iran. Now we're threatening to kill Ayatollah and his son or something like that. The latest news. We'll get into that later, but yeah, like, come on. Get all these macro stuff out of the way so that we can be free, so that we can rise like we once were rising. Because I need money and I would like to quit my job. Please and thank you. This time I promise I will take profits. No, I did. I did take profits. It's just that I reinvested a little too aggressively. Maybe got a little too egotistical. No stop loss at all-time highs. Love that. There's no way Bitcoin was going to drop 20% in one day. Well, it did. And so did every altcoin. Let's not forget what happened October 10. So, you're never safe. It's probably best to, if you will be doing this long-term, just do it in the spot market. Yeah, you're losing out on a lot of the volatility, but come on now. If anything, once the markets do start rising, that's when I'll give you permission to start using leverage. But as markets are on their way down like they are right now, probably best to just DCA on spot. Litecoin's case, currently it's still at 55, boring, but when we do typically bottom out around $50, $40. So I think I like what I see. Potentially, right? And Litecoin is Litecoin. We mustn't worry about it going down the drain forever. It will be around. It has been around. There should be no issues with Litecoin. Sui. Sui's a bit more difficult to tell because it is a newer coin. Came out in 2023. Crazy good rise. I still have faith in the project and all. It just sucks to see it all the way down here as if none of this rise ever happened, right? $5.37. Here we are at 95 cents. I don't know. A lot of other charts seem like a big fat rug pull at the end of the day where they just stay down here for eternity. But in Sui's case, I do feel like things should turn around. There is stuff going on with the ecosystem, and there's a max supply. It's supposed to be the Solana killer. As long as Solana, starts improving, Sui would start improving as well. I feel like over time it will start picking back up again. Are we at the bottom? We don't know that yet. Probably this could go on for maybe another month or two. This whole bear market case until Bitcoin eventually starts catching back up again, realizing that it is heavily oversold. Why are we at cycle breaking lows? things deserve to be turning around. Hopefully soon. I don't know. And right now we're like in this midpoint where if we rise, I don't know, what is this, 17%, I'm at break even. Or if we drop 17 or 20%, I get liquidated. So, and look at my liquidation price just rising. It's at 54,000 now. This used to be 53,000 something. So, I'm getting eaten alive over here, but that's fine. I definitely put in money that I was willing to lose. All right. BitTensor, fake uptrend, I don't know. I don't know what else to say with it. Could expect a 10% drop. That could drop us to 161. Hey, who knows? We really have to wait and see. Will Trump attack Iran over the weekend? Olympics will end on Sunday. Or is it just going to be a nothing burger? I feel like it might be a nothing burger. Because Trump is not going to tell us, yeah, we're going to attack them on this day. And also the fact that he's saying, yeah, it's going to be a small strike, a little taste so that Iran would wake up and know that we're serious. No, I don't really think he's going to do that. I think he is going to go with a full-blown strike on Iran if he does attack it. And it will be unprecedented at the day and the hour that nobody expects it on. Why would he announce that? Why would he make them prepare for it? All these threats as well is kind of just to send them mixed messages to kind of confuse the Iranians is kind of what I feel like before Trump ultimately decides to make his big move. I don't know. It's all just a big show at this point. But anyway, for BitTensor, what does this mean? For now, we're struggling with this downtrend line. 180 is the current price. Yeah, so my expectations for now is to the downside. You could expect maximum, I'd say, a 10% drop. It's a very volatile coin, so it wouldn't surprise me. That would take us to 161, and then we'll see how price behaves. If we are indeed able to bottom out at 161, and Bitcoin, I don't know, if Bitcoin does make a lower movement, potentially 62,000, I'm sure Super Trend should also be on its way down. And then as Bitcoin approaches whatever this level is, maybe by next week, we flip the Super Trend over in our favor. We finally get a bit of an uptrend on Bitcoin. I don't know how ugly it'll look, but we'll still have an uptrend nonetheless. At least an excuse of one, while we see how Bitcoin continues to improve as price goes on, right? And if that is the case, then with BitTensor's case, we would keep this uptrend line and continue forward. And your new uptrend line would look something like that. So that could potentially happen. Let me just undo literally everything. That's what I think for BitTensor for now. Chainlink up 4%. Also kind of maintaining the same deal with this uptrend. Now a drop on it, 6.5% to $8.31. I've been saying anything like $8 Chainlink is great for accumulation. Even with the dip at $7, that is a steal. Also max supply enabled. I don't know if we're going to see these lows from $4 to $9 that we experienced for a span of like 2 years. How long was this? Yeah, almost 2 years. From 2022 to 2023. So, I mean, we're kind of approaching that area now. Are we going to see another 2 years of accumulation down here? I really hope not. I mean, more recent dip around this area, which this is kind of what I would expect for it, is a period of maybe 3 months, right? One whole quarter of a year that we would stay down here for a moment before we actually do start taking off, because we needed to let the bear market do its thing. We got to call this a bear market if we are in one. So let it do its thing, I'd say. Either way, weekly super trends, they seem like they would invalidate at reasonable prices for a lot of these altcoins. On Chainlink's case, it was $15. That's doable. Hedera's price is 10. We're on our way up a little bit. 2%. Okay. And Hedera's invalidation is at 16 cents. Doable. Like I said, a lot of these are really doable. And lastly, Monero. Well, I don't have enough historical data here. Current price is 331. I wanted to see it above 300. No, 400. What was the number again? No, yeah, it was 370. That's what it was. That should spark a small uptrend for the time being. I'd say it could take us to maybe 500. Breaking out from 370 to 500. If you do take advantage of that move, it could mean maybe a 35% rise, potentially. Because I do believe in the privacy narrative, and Monero being the best one of them all. That's what I think about it. There we go. That's all I have for technical analysis. Okay, so we're going to do the news here now in just a bit, but it's a lot focusing on the Supreme Court tariffs. I'm going to try to break it down as much as I can. I will be reading through the whole posts that Trump has put out on them, the response of other people, of other countries, and ultimately the loophole that we found, the workaround, and why tariffs are still ongoing. First of all, I want to check on Polymarket. Is that thing at 100%? Now the question, I guess, is will the court force Trump to refund the tariffs? Is the biggest question. It's a 27% chance, 26% chance as of right now. At best, it was at 39%. I don't think they will force him to do that. Okay. Will the US confirm that aliens exist before 2027? I mean, literally, Obama already did confirm it. This is free money on Polymarket. I mean, the odds did spike up recently, thanks to Obama confirming that. And by 2027, that's a pretty good time frame. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Supreme Court, not Supreme Leader. I guess it doesn't show up anymore. It must be already at 100%. Alright. Whatever. Here's the big news. The Supreme Court of the United States has officially ruled that President Trump's tariffs are illegal. The vote went 6-3 in the ruling. Now the US faces a potential of $150+ billion in potential tariff refunds. From all the tariffs that we've collected, I mentioned this, I don't want to see the US have to refund all that, and worst of all, if the tariffs were indeed illegal, all these countries that have been investing in the US, that have been doing deals with the US, they'll be like, oh, I no longer have to finish building my manufacturing plant in the United States. I can go back to India, I can go back to China to make iPhones again and ship them to the US because I don't have to worry about the cost of the tariffs from shipping overseas. And it's cheaper to do it in other continents, I guess. Sure, that's going to lose investment in the United States. It's going to hurt the GDP, going to hurt the economy, I feel like. Now, people argue the opposite, of course, that tariffs, they bring inflation, and ultimately it's the consumer that ends up paying the price of it all. Yeah, but there's other economic benefits to it as well. Everything will be built in the United States, American made. It will be the hottest market for all this stuff, of course. And it also opens the door for a lot more opportunities, competition, innovation, work, right? Employment. More jobs get created. Because all those jobs are not being outsourced to different countries, right? The companies are not leaving the United States. We don't want to see that. We want to see them coming into the United States because we want everything American made. So tariffs are the driving factor behind all of that. That is why I believe that tariffs good overall. Yes, you suffer short term, but it's something that you must endure. No pain, no gain. So in the long term, obviously, yes, tariff great. That's what I think. Now, the Supreme Court invalidated tariffs imposed under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. That's the IEEPA. We will be talking about this weird acronym a lot today, so ingrain that in your brain. International Emergency Economic Powers Act. But they did not strike down all of President Trump's tariffs, as those under other statutes like Section 232 and 301 remain in effect. I think I have a post talking specifically about those, so we'll get into that. Okay. US faces $175+ billion in potential tariff refunds. Yeah, that's crazy. Now, people are saying it's bullish for crypto, the fact that the tariffs are illegal. That's because we don't want another October 10 event where Trump will announce in the middle of the evening, guys, I'm putting 100% tariff on China, by the way, haha. And then the whole market crashes 80% and everybody loses their money. We hate that. We hate what happened on February 2nd. We hate what happened on April 7. We hate what happened October 10. All of these were tariff-related crashes that dumped the markets heavily, crazily. I will go back to show you chart proof, and you can very easily determine when these crashes happened. Right here, October 10. Does this count? Well, that was a war with Iran, June 22nd, which we're about to face that soon again. February 28th, that doesn't count. That was obviously something different. This is February 3rd. I remember the first initial crash when Trump initially announced tariffs. The ultimate bottom on Bitcoin of 2025 was April 7, Liberation Day. What was that all about? Tariffs. Why did we rise immediately after? Because Trump put a 90-day delay on tariffs 2 days later on April 9, and the markets continued to rally because of it. This is why people see tariffs as illegal, to be bullish for crypto. Because when there is no fear of, yeah, we don't have to worry about these tariffs things, potentially, uncertainty. It's what it is at the end of the day. We don't want uncertainty in the markets. And tariffs do indeed bring that. Will inflation be on the rise? How will the economic data be? How will the economy progress? Will they indeed be good overall? Will countries retaliate with their counter tariffs? Will this ultimately lead to more wars? That's all questions, fair enough, that people are asking on how this tariff situation affects us. So, yeah, well, here we are. What do you even explain for these drops? I cannot give you a good explanation. This was like government shutdown kind of driven type drop. And then MicroStrategy potentially getting delisted. We did talk about that, which that's not even an issue anymore, but we're not recovering, of course, since any of all that was happening. So there you go. That's the big news for now. 6-3 vote, Supreme Court tariffs illegal. Moving on. Trump is not happy, as you can tell by this Bible of a post, which we will be reading. Which one was posted first? 1337, 1338. Well, how do you type this in 1 minute apart? How? It's got to be AI generated. Okay, we'll read it anyway. Trump's response. To show you how ridiculous the opinion is, the court said that I'm not allowed to charge even $1 to any country under IEEPA that we discussed. I assume that's to protect other countries and not the United States, which they should be interested in protecting. But I'm allowed to cut off any and all trade or business with that same country, even imposing a foreign country destroying embargo, and do anything else I want to do to them. What am I reading? How nonsensical is that? It made sense when I don't know, I translated it in Spanish and read it, so it made it easier for me. Why am I not understanding this now? So you're not allowed to charge $1 to any other country, but you're allowed to cut off any trade or business? How does that make any sense? And also, why are you protecting the other countries? You should be protecting the United States. That is what Trump is saying. They're saying that I have the absolute right to license, but not the right to charge a license fee. What license has ever been issued without the right to charge a fee? But now the court has given me the unquestioned right to ban all sorts of things from coming into our country, and a much more powerful right than many people thought we had. Our country is the hottest anywhere in the world, but now I am going in a different direction, which is even stronger than our original choice. As Justice Kavanaugh wrote in his dissent, Justice Kavanaugh, that is right here, Brett Kavanaugh. The court's decision is likely to generate other serious practical consequences in the near term. One issue will be the refunds, which we've discussed. The court says nothing today about whether, and if so how, the government should go about returning the billions of dollars it has collected, but that process is likely to be a mess, which that's not what we want to know. IEEPA does not authorize the president to impose tariffs. The grant of authority to regulate importation falls short. The president must point to clear congressional authorization to justify his extraordinary assertion of that power. He cannot. That's ultimately what it was. He mentioned in his statement over here, although I firmly disagree with the court's holdings today, so he's one of the 3 that voted against illegal tariffs. I firmly disagree but the decision must not substantially constrain a president's ability to order tariffs going forward, because ultimately he is the president. That is because numerous other federal statutes authorize the president to impose tariffs and might justify most, if not all, of these tariffs issued in this case. Those statutes include, for example, the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, this is where Section 232 comes in, and the Trade Act of 1974. This is where Sections 122, 201, and 301 come in. And the Tariff Act of 1930, the Section 338. So we'll be talking about some of these, I guess. Thank you, Justice Kavanaugh, says Trump. In actuality, while I'm sure they did not mean to do so, the Supreme Court's decision today made a president's ability to both regulate trade and impose tariffs more powerful and crystal clear rather than less. He's saying that this is kind of backfiring on them now. There will no longer be any doubt, and the income coming in and the protection of our companies and country will actually increase because of this decision. He's got something up his sleeve. Based on the long-standing law and hundreds of victories to the contrary, the Supreme Court did not overrule tariffs. They merely overruled a particular use of IEEPA tariffs. The ability to block, embargo, restrict, license, or impose any other condition on a foreign country's ability to conduct trade with the United States under IEEPA has been fully confirmed by this decision. In order to protect our country, a president can actually charge more tariffs than I was charging in the past under the various other tariff authorities, which have also been confirmed and fully allowed. Therefore, effective immediately, all national security tariffs, Section 232, and existing Section 301 tariffs, those will remain in place and in full force and effect. Okay. Today I will sign an order, spoilers. I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122 over and above our normal tariffs already being charged. And we are also initiating several Section 301 and other investigations to protect our country from unfair trading practices. He further elaborates over here. Oh my gosh. The Supreme Court ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing. I am ashamed of certain members of the court for not having the courage to do what is right for our country. I would like to thank and congratulate Justice Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh for your strength, wisdom, and love of our country, which is right now very proud of you. So those three are the guys that voted in favor of tariffs. The rest of the 6 voted against, right? When you read the dissenting opinions, there is no way that anyone can argue against them. Foreign countries that have been ripping us off for years are ecstatic and dancing in the streets, but they won't be dancing for long. The Democrats on the court are thrilled, but they will automatically vote no against anything that makes America strong and healthy again. They also are a disgrace to our nation. Others think they're being politically correct, which has happened before far too often with certain members of this court when, in fact, they're just fools and lapdogs for the rhinos, Republicans in name only, and radical left Democrats. And not that this should have anything to do with it, very unpatriotic, and disloyal to the Constitution. It is my opinion that the court has been swayed by foreign interests, a political movement that is far smaller than people would think, but obnoxious, ignorant, and loud. This was an important case to me. It's true, we always see Trump talking about these tariffs and saying, look guys, tariffs good, trying to get the Supreme Court to vote in favor of it, but ultimately no, because of the rhinos, because of the Dems, seems like they voted against it. This was an important case to me, more as a symbol of economic and national security than anything else. The good news is that there are methods, practices, statutes, and other authorities, as recognized by the entire court and Congress, that are even stronger than the IEEPA tariffs, available to me as President of the United States of America. And in actuality, I was very modest in my ask of other countries and businesses because I wanted to do nothing that could sway the decision that has been rendered by the court. I have very effectively utilized tariffs over the past year to make America great again. Stock market, S&P 500, 50,000. Dow Jones, 7,000. Two numbers that... No, I'm reading it backwards. 50,000 on the Dow Jones, 7,000 on the S&P 500. Two numbers that everybody thought upon our landslide election victory could not be attained until the very end of my administration. 4 years. Hey, how about the crypto market? We're not doing great because of these tariffs, but hey, who cares, I guess. Tariffs have likewise been used to end 5 of the 8 wars that I settled, have given us great national security, and together with our strong border, reduced fentanyl coming into our country by 30% when I use them as a penalty against countries illegally sending this poison to us. All those tariffs will remain, but other alternatives will now be used to replace the ones that the court incorrectly rejected. Wow, that's the big response from Trump, and there is more. Those members of the Supreme Court who voted against our very acceptable and proper method of tariffs, they should be ashamed of themselves. Their decision was ridiculous, but now the adjustment process begins, and we will do everything possible to take in even more money than we were taking in before. Trump is literally doubling down here. I think I'll read this. Trump says that we have to do something about the courts as they are corrupt. I'll read this later, actually, because I want to read this first. So, yep, Trump already, obviously, we knew he was going to have a backup plan for tariffs following the court ruling, and this is something that he alluded to before. And here it is. Effective immediately, all national security tariffs, Section 232 and existing Section 301 tariffs will remain in place and in full force and effect. Today, I will sign the order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122 over and above our normal tariffs already being charged, as we read in that other post. This was announced later on. Trump went live to announce all of this based on the Supreme Court tariff ruling. So there you go. He's doubling down. We're continuing the same tariffs plus 10% additional tariffs to literally everyone globally. Take that. That is Trump's response to this. Crazy. He found a loophole, and he's just... Well, I mean, fair enough. You found it. Congrats. I've been alerting to this ruling for months. It happened. This will strain the Treasury and push for liquidity to support markets and possible quantitative easing measures. Hey, maybe good. This is a developing story. This is a direct quote from President Donald Trump today in response to a major Supreme Court ruling. Earlier today, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down Trump's sweeping global tariffs in a 6-3 decision, ruling that he exceeded his executive authority by invoking the IEEPA 1997, a law intended for national emergencies, to impose them. The tariffs, which included broad reciprocal duties on imports from nearly every country, aimed at matching other nations' tariffs on U.S. goods, and targeted measures against fentanyl trafficking, have generated over $175 to $200 billion in revenue since implementation last year. Chief of Justice John Roberts authored the majority opinion, stating that IEEPA does not authorize the president to impose tariffs, as that power constitutionally belongs to Congress. He emphasized the major questions doctrine, requiring explicit congressional approval for actions with vast economic impact. What is Reuters.com here doing? The 3 liberal justices joined Roberts and conservatives Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett in the majority, while Justices Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Brett Kavanaugh dissented, arguing the tariffs were lawful under IEEPA's text and precedents implications. Economic efforts. The decision could lead to refunds for affected importers, potentially straining the U.S. Treasury. It may disrupt trade deals and cause market volatility. Stocks rose, and the dollar weakened immediately after the ruling. Oh yeah, we saw that on the volatility index today. The spike up. It wasn't that great. It's always underwhelming. Why can't we get those spike ups to like 80 or 100 like we once used to? This is not it. This is not it either. Really? I swear I saw it like... I guess it is this one. Okay. Okay, fair enough. We did spike up to 21. That's boring. Come on. Should have gotten more. Where was I? The ruling adds to ongoing tensions between Trump and the judiciary, echoing his past criticisms of court blocking his policies. Political reactions: the Democrats praised the outcome as a check on executive overreach, with figures like Senate leader Chuck Schumer calling it a collapse of Trump's illegal tariff tax. Of course. Trump's response: in a statement reported by Reuters shortly after the decision, Trump said he has to do something about the courts. This appears to reflect frustration with the judiciary's role in limiting his agenda, consistent with his prior comments urging limits on judges' powers, such as nationwide injunctions. The White House has indicated it will explore Plan B options to reinstate tariffs under different authorities, but no further elaboration on doing something about the courts has been provided yet. Well, now we know. He's using it with different sections. More stuff that he talked about. I can't charge $1, but I can destroy the trade. I can destroy the country. I can embargo them, but I can't charge them $1. Doesn't make sense. Let me charge them at the tariffs, is what he talked about. Trump also talking about having other alternatives lined up now. They're great. They will pull in more money and make everything stronger. So he is confident about it. Okay, what is this? A powerful man in Georgia wanted to kiss him. Hello? Okay, moving on. On losing the tariff case, he said, I read the paragraphs very well. Great comprehension. I read everything there is to read. And I said, we can't lose this case, but we can when judges are political. A reporter asked, Hakeem Jeffries called you a wannabe king. Trump says, I call him low IQ. He doesn't even know what a tariff is. Why not just work with Congress? Reporter asked. Trump says, I don't have to. I have the right to do tariffs. I always had the right. We're just going through a little bit more complicated process. Not complicated very much, because ultimately he does have it under control. So, Trump called it deeply disappointing and he is ashamed of certain justices. His response was a 10% global tariff under Section 122 instead. We have alternatives, great alternatives. Could be more money. The court says no, Trump finds another door. Supreme Court blocks the... Yep, we know. And the court ruled Trump couldn't use emergency powers under IEEPA to impose tariffs, because that's what he did on April 7, on Liberation Day. Within hours, he signed an order invoking Section 122 to impose a 10% tariff on all countries effective immediately. Trump called the ruling deeply disappointing and said he's ashamed of certain members. Yeah, I just read that. He also announced the new Section 301 investigations into unfair trade practices. The court said no. He found another way. Then he posted this on Truth Social. It is my great honor to have just signed from the Oval Office a global 10% tariff on all countries, literally every country, which will be effective almost immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter. There you go. Completely doubled down on all of that. Crazy. That's the same post that I just read. Scott Bessent's comments on this. He and Trump have been making big plans and it's full steam ahead. Tariff revenue will be unchanged in 2026. Boom. Let's be clear about what today's ruling was and what it wasn't, says Scott Bessent. Despite the misplaced gloating from Democrats, ill-informed media outlets, and the very people who gutted our industrial base, the court did not rule against President Trump's tariffs. 6 justices simply ruled that IEEPA authorities cannot be used to raise even $1 of revenue. This administration will invoke alternative legal authorities to replace the IEEPA tariffs. We will be leveraging Section 232 and 301 tariff authorities that have been validated through thousands of legal challenges. Treasury's estimates show that the use of Section 122 authority, combined with potentially enhanced Section 232, 301 tariffs, will result in virtually unchanged tariff revenue in 2026. There you go. So if you didn't pay attention to anything that I said, this is basically it. What is the result of the Supreme Court's ruling? Trump gets to keep NatSec tariffs in place and in full effect, just under a different statute, and he even slapped an extra 10% global tariff on all imports, bringing in even more money. They just basically made him stronger. What a counter reaction. So what does this mean? The White House has put out a detailed report on what today's 10% tariff order means. Here's what they're saying. President Trump signed a proclamation imposing a temporary 10% import duty on most goods entering the U.S. This uses his authority under Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974 to address large balance of payments deficits and rebalance trade for American workers, farmers, and manufacturers. The key details. So the 10% thing, it will last 150 days and will start February 24 at 12:01 a.m. EST, which is in 4 days. It aims to reduce dollar outflows, boost domestic production, create jobs, and fix trade imbalances. For example, huge goods deficit, current account deficit at roughly or minus 4% of GDP in 2024, the worst since 2008. The exemptions. Some goods are not subject to the duty. Critical minerals, energy products, certain natural resources or fertilizers unavailable or insufficient domestically, specific agricultural items like beef, tomatoes, oranges, pharmaceuticals, certain electronics, passenger vehicles, light trucks, parts, aerospace products, books, donations, baggage, goods already under Section 232 actions, USMCA compliant goods from Canada, Mexico, duty-free textiles apparel from certain CAFTA DR countries. Trump has also continued suspending duty-free de minimis treatment for low-value shipments, including postal, so they face the new duty. I have no idea what that meant. Separately, he directed the USTR to investigate unfair trade practices under Section 301. In the broader context, this follows a Supreme Court ruling limiting other tariff authorities. Tariffs remain a key tool to protect U.S. interests, reshore production, and secure better trade deals, pushing for reciprocity and America's golden age. Okay. What does Canada think? Because obviously we have been impacted by this. We're getting another 10% tariff on top of whatever we already had. He's threatening an additional 10% global tariff. Canada calls the tariffs unjust, but continues high-level talks while seeking new export markets. I don't think they're going to meet any high-level talk, but anyway. Ontario autos, steel, and aluminum have been hit the hardest. Yup. Sucks. Pierre Poilievre also commented on this. I wonder if Carney said anything. Oh, repeating Carney's points. Uh-oh. We'll see what they say. I'll compare and contrast, I guess. I don't have Carney's posts pulled up, but I will. The U.S. Supreme Court ruling striking down unjustified IEEPA tariffs is a step in the right direction, says Pierre. Unfortunately, tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, lumber, autos, and other products remain despite the ruling, and continue to inflict a real damage on Canadian workers and industries. In a successful CUSMA review, we expect lumber, aluminum, steel, and auto tariffs to be lifted. When is that happening? Didn't the Democrats also force the United States to drop tariffs on Canada? Didn't that happen? Whatever. Anything less than this means our workers will continue to suffer. Prime Minister Carney promised to negotiate a win and get a deal by July 21st of last year. Well, since then it's gotten worse. Yep. The truth is no one can control what President Trump will say or do, and so we must instead focus on what we can control. We must unblock our energy and minerals, unleash our economy, and bolster our military and self-reliance for leverage to fight for tariff-free trade with the United States. Yeah. Our mission must be unaffordable, unaffordable, not unaffordable. So affordable, safe, and self-reliant Canada. As always, Conservatives stand ready to work with the government during this critical period in the interest of Canada. Hey, don't do that. Carney, what did he say? Let me go to liar.com, and it redirects me to Mark Carney's Twitter page. And then, well, here he is yapping about building homes. Hey, you're actually building homes for once, not Lego homes. Olympics, no one cares. Haha, get copyright strike. Oh, my stuff might get copyright striked. Whoops. You know, I got a copyright strike on one of my other streams because I showed the Bad Bunny halftime show of the Super Bowl. How cringe is that? There was no audio played. It was literally just Bad Bunny walking in the background. What, I can't show a still frame of that anymore? I'll just get my whole video copyright striked? You suck. But anyway. Gold medals, yep. And reposts in French. What is this? Intelligence is shared, okay. Yep. Build homes, okay. This is February 19, so this is obviously already from before. So he did not even comment on the tariffs. Lovely. Okay, well, I guess we're focusing too hard on the Olympics. Just wait until the Olympics are over. Then we go to war with Iran. Guess who escaped the whole tariff thing? Howard Lutnick with his Cantor Fitzgerald Company. So, the US Supreme Court just ruled Trump's tariffs illegal. Guess who's about to make a fortune off of it? Cantor Fitzgerald, the firm now run by Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick's sons, has been buying up the rights to tariff refunds from US importers at pennies on the dollar. They were anticipating this, dude. Here's how the scheme works. So US companies paid billions in tariffs that are now ruled illegal. Cantor approaches those companies and says, I'll give you 25 cents now for every dollar you were owed in refunds. Companies will take the quick cash rather than wait years for the legal process, and when the refunds come through, Cantor collects the full dollar, which means they make 75 cents in profit for every dollar that they will refund ahead of time. Interesting, dude. Lutnick divested from Cantor by handing it to his 20-something sons. Really? He has that many sons? And placing his equity in a trust for those same sons. He paid zero capital gains tax on the transfer. Now, this is a guy that knows ball. As Commerce Secretary, Lutnick has directed visibility into the government's legal strategy, how their lawyers rate their odds, and what arguments they will make. His family's firm is betting against the very tariffs his boss created. Interesting, dude. He knew. He must have known. There's way too many coincidences about Howard Lutnick. If I remember, I'll talk about them. They bought at 25 cents on the dollar, and after today's SCOTUS ruling, the Supreme Court of the United States, those rights could be worth now 80 to 90 cents. The potential payout could be in the billions. That's insider trading with extra steps. I agree. Guys, on 9/11, Howard Lutnick did not go to work that day. Trump literally bragged about this a couple days ago, saying, oh, well, he was lucky for that one day he decided to go drop his kids off at school, or something like that. Literally talking about his kids there too, by the way. The next thing is the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. Apparently, Howard Lutnick was also neighbors with Jeffrey Epstein at one point, and really good pals with Jeffrey Epstein, although nowadays he's saying, guys, no, that's not real. I stopped being pals with Jeffrey Epstein after, the weird stuff came out. Well, after the weird stuff came out, there's still emails confirming that Howard Lutnick is still messaging Jeffrey Epstein, hey man, I'm going to your island, and here are the ages of all the kids that I'm going to bring, all my children. So, okay. In my opinion, guilty until proven innocent, because what the heck is going on? But that's Howard Lutnick for you. Beautiful. Now, economic data. That's it. No more Supreme Court tariff. I'm done, okay? It was a big nothing burger that got us excited, kind of. I saw the headline this morning. I saw it say something like, oh yeah, the Supreme Court tariffs ruled Trump's tariffs illegal. I was like, no! I raised my hands up in the air. And then, later on, Trump's like, guys, don't worry, I'll make a big announcement. And then he immediately finds the workaround. I'm like, yeah, obviously, Trump. Obviously. 5D chess. He knew how to counter this. Obviously, he had to be one step ahead of the game. Otherwise, he didn't want this to catch him by surprise and have the United States refund all these billions of dollars and lose a lot of investment, potentially trillions for the future, right? Hey, and also you'll be getting your 2000 tariff dividend check, which totally exists, and that should come before midterm elections so that you remember to vote Republican. That's the whole playbook for now. Lovely. Am I getting ahead of myself here? I guess I am. No, I think I'm fine. Dude, a lot of yapping today. So, the poor Fed, what will we do with them? So we got economic data today. Let me just read the numbers here, because I'm not going to understand it in a paragraph. GDP growth rate for the fourth quarter of 2025. This is during government shutdown. And obviously, we're going to blame the government shutdown for these terrible numbers. We previously had a growth of 4.4%. Lovely. We were expecting a 3% growth, but ultimately we got a 1.4% growth in the fourth quarter. That is terrible growth. It's growth nonetheless. That's really low, though. The PCE data, inflation coming in higher than expected. I guess that's what it means. Which, no good. Also coming from December month. Why December? Why do we not have January? I guess super delayed for what? Anyways, we'll go through all of that in a second. Here's the PCE stuff. Here's the GDP stuff. So the US GDP fell to 1.4%, while inflation is on the rise again. Fed is in the worst possible situation. The stagflation, it's happening again. US GDP was expected to come in at 3%, but it came in at just 1.4%. That is a major downside surprise, and it shows that the economic growth has slowed much more than markets were expecting. One key reason behind the slowdown was the government shutdown in Q4, which lasted for nearly 1.5 months. That directly impacted output spending and overall activity, which pulled the GDP lower. But that is only one side of the story. At the same time, inflation data showed an increase. PCE inflation came in at 2.9%, which is the highest level since March 2024. The core PCE rose to 3%, which is the highest since April 2024. This is important because the PCE is the Federal Reserve's preferred measure of inflation. Even though CPI and core CPI have been trending down, which we have covered, the PCE numbers show that the cost of goods and services is still rising in the economy. They take out the other volatile energy prices and food, I think it is, that they exclude. So they measure like the actual cost of goods and services. Those costs are still rising, inflation is still there. So now we have a very difficult situation. On one side, growth is slowing, GDP is much weaker than expected, economic activity is losing momentum, and job losses are increasing. What do? You gotta do? You gotta cut rates. But on the other side, inflation is not fully under control. Why add more inflation if inflation is already on the rise? What do? Stagflation. Prices are still rising at a pace that is above the Fed's target. This creates pressure on consumers mainly. If the growth slows while prices continue rising, households will face more difficult managing expenses. Income growth does not keep up with the cost of living, and financial stress increases. Now, the Federal Reserve faces a clear dilemma. If they cut rates quickly and they inject liquidity into the system, it could help support GDP growth and improve the job market. Lower rates would make borrowing cheaper and boost spending and investment, but that would cause inflation as well. If inflation is still elevated, cutting rates too early could push prices higher again, and that would make the inflation problem even worse. That's the big issue. If the Fed keeps the rates high and they stay on the pause, inflation may cool further, fine, but you're still going to have slower growth and it will turn into deeper weakness. The GDP could weaken more and the labor market could deteriorate further. Job market is already cooked. We're going to make it worse. So right now the Fed is stuck between these two risks. You either cut rates and risk higher inflation, or you hold rates and you will risk deeper economic downturn, slowdown, recession. And that combination makes the next policy decision much more complicated than before. Real-time PCE appears to have been dropping, according to Trueflation. Independent measurements, but we don't know for sure. I guess we gotta trust the official ones. Of course, Peter Schiff wants to comment on it, so he says, data confirms that Trump's hottest economy that he's been mentioning in his Truth Social posts, the hottest economy is cooling fast. So we got the Q2 GDP collapsing from 4.4 to 1.4%, half of expectations. while December PCE spiked up the inflation, 0.4%, annualizing to 5% year over year. 5%. Year over year, PCE rose 2.9% in December versus 2.7% in November, and core rose 3%, up from 2.8% in November. Stagflation will only get worse. There is the key word, stagflation. Lovely. And here's the big blame. The Democrat shutdown is what cost the USA at least 2 points in GDP. That's why they are doing it in mini form again. No shutdowns. Also, lower the interest rates. Too late Powell is the worst. Why does he say 2 now? Like the number 2. Too late Powell is the worst. Is this delusion at its finest, or is this a typo from here? There's no way he actually said 2. Or 2 points in the GDP? Is that it? Is it a play on word? Maybe I'm just not getting the joke here. I guess that's what it is, a 2 points and too late Powell. Alright. Hey man, let's hope Kevin Warsh does what you want and lowers the interest rates, risking higher inflation. What do we do in that case? I don't know. We get mixed signals with inflation most of the time, right? Like we saw with the CPI data. Inflation is on its way down. Trueflation says it's on the way down. But then we get PCE, the actual Fed's preferred measure of inflation. They do care about those numbers, and those numbers are on the rise. They will not want to cut rates. How does this affect the odds? Hold on, am I done here? Yeah. The odds have kind of remained the same last I checked. We had like a 66 to 33% chance of our third rate cut. Obviously more of a chance that we will maintain rates for this current meeting, obviously. It's looking like only 1 or 2, 2 rate cuts for this year. The third rate cut, which was expected to happen in December, went from 33.66 to 22.77% odds. Not likely that we will get a third rate cut this year. Bearish for markets, part of the reason why we were dropping in the morning. Why did we rise in the morning? Because Supreme Court said tariff illegal. And then we ultimately didn't rise as much anymore because everybody said, oh, this is going to be bullish, you know? No. Trump decides to double down, add another 10% tariff on everything, and also continue the tariffs. He found the loophole. So things are continuing as normal. No big change, and that is ultimately why today has been ultimately not much going on. I say overall it's positive because, like I said, I think tariff good. At least long term. But now this whole what the Fed will do, I think markets are being too greedy as well. Come on. Be happy with the 2 rate cuts that we will get. We were only expecting 1 originally for this year. From the Fed's projections. Now, usually Fed projections, they're always really cautious because they don't want to like go back on their numbers and they prefer to like under promise over deliver type thing, right? That's what I see from them. Great. Democrat shutdown. Okay. I guess I'm back to the Supreme Court's decision on Friday to slap down Trump's use of tariffs. It could actually make a U.S. attack on Iran more likely, says Wilbur Ross, who was the Commerce Secretary in Trump's first term. I don't think he can take this loss and then be seen as backing down on Iran, he said. There you go, we're attacking Iran, confirmed. Not confirmed. Trump is charging ahead into a showdown that could go a long way toward defining his place in history. Do something for the crypto markets, then we'll remember you dearly. He has reached this point without seeking congressional approval or making his case to the American public, having criticized previous presidents' wars in the Middle East. Yeah, people are digging up old posts about Obama or Clinton or Bush, about the Middle East, the Iraq War, all that stuff. Even blaming Obama for he's going to get into war with Iran to become elected or something like that. Okay. Well, now we're the ones going to war with Iran here. Officials say Trump has gained confidence about the benefits of wielding U.S. military might since he ordered successful strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear sites in June 22nd that we saw over here. June 22nd. And capturing Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro last month. That was cool. That was actually really cool. So yeah, talks about Iran. What is going on? This was funny. Platform manipulation. Thomas Massey came out with a poll. He asked you guys, do you want a US-led war with Iran? There's 3 options here. No, we do not want a US-led war with Iran because it's not in our interests. Or yes, or attacking is not war. I clicked on no, I think. And then you get these bots. I guess that this is the only thing I could explain this for, right? From 32,000 votes to 168,000 votes. And then suddenly every one of them is yes. Suspicious. It's crazy. How is that even possible? 55%. Oh, and people are saying that this is the reason. I don't know if you guys saw this. It's a bunch of, what is this? Pro-Zionist accounts, I think, that got unbanned on Twitter. Or like anti-Iran accounts, whatever it was. Majority of them, I think, are bots. I don't know. Huge list of accounts. And then maybe those are part of the votes over here. I just thought it was funny. So there you go. Now, what are we doing? US is to open a token enrichment deal, but Trump also has the option to kill Khamenei and his son. There you go. That is now on the table too. The full spectrum is on the table. Pentagon presented plans to take out the supreme leader and his potential successor, Mujtaba. A second source confirmed it was floated weeks ago. Maybe from the Pentagon pizza stuff that we've been discussing before. But a senior official says Washington could accept a small token enrichment if Iran proves no threat. If the Iranians want to prevent an attack, they should give us an offer we can't refuse. Trump's senior advisor says the president hasn't decided to strike yet. He might never do it. He might wake up tomorrow and say, that's it. Iran's proposal is reportedly coming in 2 to 3 days. Trump could strike this weekend, as per Axios. We'll see what happens, I guess. Is Hezbollah likely to join Iran if a war breaks out? I think they will. So if the US hits Iran, Israel will have to hit Lebanon as well. Dude, this is just going to become a global conflict now. Lebanon is going to be involved in this too. So we're getting also conflicting reports. New York Times saying that US troops are being evacuated from Middle East bases, but CENTCOM denies that. We're really trying to cover something up over here. Trying to hide our moves, I guess. Trump hasn't made a final decisions, but Iran strikes could come as early as this weekend, which we've discussed. He decided he will do it within 10 to 15 days. I don't think we're going to wait that long. We probably will strike this weekend. We'll see. Witkoff rejected Iran's proposal for a 3-year enrichment halt, pledged not to strike Israel. What? And yeah. I think that's basically it. The majority of all these other stuff we've talked about before, Diego Garcia, the other Iranian ambassador or whatever it is, foreign minister, Aragachi, and that Trump is considering an attack soon. Okay, great. This is an old post, but Trump talking about the tax refunds as well, which should be great. Tax refunds this year, because of the Great Big Beautiful Bill, are substantially greater than ever before. In some cases, estimates are that over 20% will be returned to the taxpayer. So when you get your tax refund, think about what a wonderful president you have. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security for our great seniors, no tax on overtime, interest deductions on car loans, and much more. Don't spend all of this money in one place. Yeah, don't put it all in the crypto markets. Yeah, that's it for that. And then the tiniest amount of crypto news that I have is just this. Sorry, there's literally nothing else going on. And the biggest topic today was the Supreme Court tariff ruling. The SEC eases rules on brokers' stablecoin holdings. Great. Step in the right direction, I guess. So the Security Exchange Commission has made a slight policy change under its Project Crypto work. allowing dealers, to treat certain stablecoins as capital. A minor tweak on paper, but potentially big for institutional stablecoin adoption. Okay. Adoption. And this also happened, apparently. Discord's ID verification vendor, Persona, reportedly got hacked. Let's go. We're going to have to submit our IDs to Discord to use it in the future. So, dude, nobody's going to, like... I already did, so I guess I might as well just use it, but will everybody else also do it? I really doubt it. The new CEO, sketchy guy, apparently, and he's going to be implementing this rule now. And then Discord just constantly gets hacked. You're just going to get your ID stolen. So Persona, I guess we could look this up, right? I think I've used Persona like once ever. Discord's age verification vendor, Persona, just got hacked. OpenAI, US government, and Persona have been running identity surveillance since November 2023. Anyone who verified age on Discord is now traceable. Nothing is private anymore. They promise that they will delete your information as soon as the age verification is done. They said they did that with mine. I hope they did. I don't know, man. I do have scam callers calling me by my legal government name, so I have little to no trust on this. Okay. What do we got? Government ID numbers, IP addresses, names with fuzzy match. What? Phone numbers, email, geolocation, browser fingerprints, device fingerprints, faces, countries, inquiry fields, arbitrary strings, selfie backgrounds. All of that has been stolen. Lovely. Okay, never mind. They say here, Persona was not hacked. No database was breached. We recognize recent media reports may have caused concern. We apologize for any uncertainty or disruptions to our customers and users. Yeah, age verification started because of the new CEO. Lovely. Okay, well, there you go. That's Discord for you. If you care. How are we down here, dude? So, that's one big domino out of the way. The Supreme Court tariff ruling. Finally done. It was also, I did not anticipate this to happen today. Was that already, like, announced from before? Last time I checked, I literally searched it up on Grok, didn't I? Like, when is the next decision? And they said the date is uncertain. It got delayed in like January. It was the last thing that I covered. Let me see if I can find it. Supreme Court tariffs. Literally this. Does it say the date that I asked this question? I don't think it does. I asked it live, I'm pretty sure. I said, when is the Supreme Court tariff decision on tariffs? Yeah, I said that wrong. Whatever. Grok replied, no Supreme Court tariff... Dude, no Supreme Court decision on tariffs case has been issued yet. Trump's IEEPA authority. Oral arguments were on November 5th. The court is in recess. Earliest possible release is February 20. Oh, okay. Well, that was today. Never mind. I should have seen this coming then. Okay, fair enough. Getting embarrassed live on stream. Lovely. So yeah, I guess I should have saw it coming. I just didn't write down the date. That caught me off guard by surprise. I should have known. Sorry. But hey, we got no volatility from it either way, for reasons I already explained. Bad economic data made market drop a little. Supreme Court illegal tariff made market rise a little. And then Trump doubling down on the tariff made markets be like, you know what, forget everything. We're just going to stay normal. This is the volatility candle in the morning. I mean, we hit a high of 68,000 and we hit a low of 66,000. That's as much volatility as we got. It was really underwhelming. And ultimately, here we are, 67,777.7. It's like 9 and 8. Come on, just give us the 7. Give me the 7 so I can end the stream. Why is it bouncing between 8 and 9? Do you guys see this? 67,000. Okay, there we go. It moved a little bit finally. It's still bouncing between those two numbers. That's crazy. Whatever. Okay, yeah, that's all I have for tonight's stream, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Apologies for the delay, but I'm a busy man. Dude, tomorrow I have to work again. Why can't I just have, like, part-time work and paid just as much? Or more? Why can't we just get, like... Dude, I don't know. Yeah, I saw a hack, actually. Not a hack, like a life hack is what I mean. Some guy was getting really frustrated that no companies were hiring him or viewing his applications or none of that stuff. So what he would do to companies that he already applied to, he would call the HR department directly and be like, "Hey, I was notified that I had to reschedule my interview. Can we reschedule that now?" And obviously he was never scheduled for one in the first place. But the HR department was like, "Oh yeah, you know what? It was probably our fault, I guess. We might have missed that out. Sure, when are you available for the interview?" And then he would literally just schedule the interview and then, you know, get a lot of interviews. It was only one time he said that, like, the guy that answered the phone is like, well, I don't know you, and I'm the one that's doing the interviews here. So he's like, "Oh, well, sorry, there's a bad connection on the phone. I can't hear you," and he hung up. So only one guy he got caught, but I mean, like, what's he gonna do about it? Nothing. He just kept on doing it, and for one bad apple, you still got a ton of interviews, whereas if you're just blind applying everywhere to every company, the odds of you getting a job interview is very low. The things we have to do to work around this darn job market, am I right? That's funny. Yeah, anyways, just wanted to share that. Tomorrow, what we'll be discussing, literally nothing. Nothing will be going on tomorrow, so expect 0% movement flat line like that. But we will still have a good show tomorrow, of course. Today was a great show. I liked it. Yeah, that's all for tonight, guys. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your evening. Bye.